What's good with the YouTube? You already know, Big Flaco with a convict's perspective, and I'm smashing, dashing, sliding on through with a whole lot of energy, man. So please hit the like, subscribe, comment, do all those things to help support this channel. And hit that bell notification for future fire content. So as y'all know, yesterday I did this live with Dirty Weather, and this is for those that maybe didn't tap into his live, man. And a lot of viewers were thinking that maybe there was tension, maybe there was shots being, directed towards each other, but in all that shit, there's a lot of respect, and there were some things that needed to be addressed because of either an difference of opinion or just certain things at times get misinterpreted. And sometimes in order to get on the same page and find solutions, you have discussions, and that's exactly what we did. We had discussions, man, and it just shows what could happen when you start to interact with people instead of always trying to be at each other's decks or always trying to be competitive or always looking for a reason. Now, if you support me and support this channel, I'm going to ask you to support Dirty Weather 916, man. Tap in this channel, man. And there's also a lot of other channels, man, that, it's always good to get different perspectives from different individuals, like 60 the Live, man, and a couple other channels, man, I actually do watch and get some insight and see what the temperature is as far as how people are feeling or what people are thinking. Because a lot of times, man, a lot of things that are discussed on here on YouTube, sometimes it's just a wording or the way it's delivered at times could be taken way out of context, man. And I think it's important that we kind of show respect, regardless. One thing when I was in prison, right, even towards the opposition, the foe, I would always show at least common courtesy, right? Would never disrespect. It's just about an acknowledgement. Doesn't mean you always have to agree, but the way things get done, right? All that's needed in order to find common ground to reaching solutions. You got to be willing, open, and just hear what the other side has to say, and not always make it about you, right? Because there's a whole lot of people that could be effective just by certain people's actions, man. And sometimes just hearing someone out, you get a clearer understanding of why they feel that way. See, sometimes it's just a misunderstanding from time to time. A lot of times when there's issues or beef, and just people take offense to certain things, and you got to be willing to hear that, because if you're not willing to hear that, you're never ever going to be able to correct the problem. With that said, it's your boy Flaco, Convict's Perspective. I'm gone.
Bam. Back at it. We are live. Dirt and Flaco, man. A lot of y'all asked about this one. Like, when is this going to happen? Well, it happened.
It's happening.
So,
what's going on with it, brother?
So it's like, hold on, and I'm glad I didn't have to move and get a lighter, because I'm like, I don't want to miss nothing. So we got some topics to talk about that. And hold on, and my background, because I live, like on Front Street, so you might hear music slapping by, you might hear all type of stuff. I got headphones on, so don't let it. I ain't gonna lie, this one is kind of damn. I'm gonna add some shit in this shit.
I got my little one dancing over here.
Man, shit, the Mexicans do it big. Mexicans do it big in Sacramento, man. Shit, they got the old school truck sitting like this, like that, with the motherfucker slap in it, and that motherfucker was just abnormally loud though. So so before we get into it, man, what led to this video happen? Because that's very important. Because it appears that me and you are going back and forth. You drop a video, and I complain about it. You haven't really complained too much about what I said. I'll give you that. But it seems like every time you drop a video, it's like on guard. Like, there's something wrong with this, and I'm gonna find it. Yeah. So what happened with the first video? What happened with the first video? Like, I reacted to your video. Tell me about that video.
Okay, the first video, you were kind of like puzzled, like, why would the Northerners even think about getting involved, right? And see, a lot of things have changed. A lot of things have changed since we've broken in the system. Alliances are different nowadays. Relationships are different, and so there's been incidents that have happened where Northerners South have actually got off with brothers together, man. And it kind of puzzled me about it. And with the latest situation that happened over there in Salinas Valley, I brought up that I hope that the Northerners don't get involved. And you were kind of like, why would the Northerners even think of getting involved? And
Yeah.
and since then, you touched base with a couple people, and they let you know that the politics are a little bit different. It is a question that people are asking.
Man, normally, hold on 1 second. Babe. Babe.
Yeah.
See? The window and the door.
Come inside.
All right, because I was kind of able to hit myself twice. All right, so I will say about the first video, like players fuck up, and a lot of times they don't get a chance to get the information right as quick as I did. It just so happened to happen after the video dropped, and then somebody, Smoke Dog from Party Line or whatever, Smoke Dog called one of the homies that was inside, and he ran everything down. And by the time he was done, I was like, damn, I need to literally update my program because shit changed right when I left. I left in 2018. And that's when the beginning of shit went out the window. And then it made me think about all them phone calls I get from the homies that's still inside. That's like, bro, like you wouldn't even be able to imagine this shit. There's Northerners in Old Folsom. Like, wow, to me, that's wild. I ain't seen a Northerner in Old Folsom ever. And if they came, they put them in the cages and took them straight to, like they might have been level ones. And they would take them off the bus, put them directly in a cage, and put them in Ash Seg until they was cleared to go to the camp, if they was gonna go to the camp. So I never seen that. So things have really changed in CDC, and I didn't get that memo. So I walked right into that one. I ain't gonna lie, I walked right into that one, and I had to take that on the chin as well.
Well, then shortly thereafter, I just had to take one on the chin as well because I got some information. I showed you how I got the information. Someone that is in a position to where they should be getting accurate information, right?
Oh, wait, you're talking about the second riot.
The second one, man, and that's
it's really the third one. It's really the third one if you want to get technical, but it's the second riot.
Yeah.
So what led you to make the video with that information? I read the text, but I mean, shit, what happened?
So initially, right, I was going to initially drop it just saying that there was an incident, and then I was being told that the Southsiders had rushed the blacks, right?
Right.
But there's no, it was just, I was going to stop there because, and I was going to sit there and say, hey, let's wait till we get further information on it and whatnot. And then the other channels were going to do a follow-up behind me because they were going to do the research on it, right? So as I'm doing the video, I'm recording and stuff because where I'm at, where I stay permanently right now, I don't show my location, right? So I've been doing recordings where I stop. And as I'm doing the recording, I'm getting this information coming in. And I'm like, man, I only have a 3-minute video. I might as well add what they're saying to this right now because I'm thinking it's going to be true information. Because I did calls up and talked about what happened, right? I did as much as I could, right? And I thought the information was going to be accurate. So then I said, okay, let me add this because it's going to make the video over 8 minutes. Now, we know when we do a video over 8 minutes, you can put commercials. Anything under 8 minutes, you can't put commercials. I'm like, okay, I can add this information. And so I reiterated myself a couple times, like saying it, like to make the video longer, what happened, right? Yeah. And shortly thereafter, I got a couple brothers that hit the line and said, oh, hey, that's not what happened. I'm like, so I reached out to dude and you see the communications, right? I'm like, hey, man, I'm being questioned.
Is it okay for me to ask what nationality was the person you got the information from, if you don't mind me asking?
Mexican.
Can I say Southsider, Northsider, or just?
You can say, he was an ex Norteño Soldado, which means he used to have status.
So he does. So it's safe to say he really doesn't have an agenda by giving you misinformation.
Not the way it was. Not the way it was spoken to me. Because even afterwards, he even apologized, as you've seen it. You know, when he found out from someone on B Yard what he learned to happen. You know, but
Yeah,
he was getting. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
See, he was getting information when on A Yard from a lieutenant and a correctional officer, as you're seeing, right?
Yeah.
So either these correctional officers pretty much fed him some bullshit. He thought it to be true. And then by the time everything was realized it wasn't accurate, is when I pulled the post. I put the video down. I put the post down and kind of acknowledged it. And I actually didn't get the actual truth of what happened from him till the following day.
Okay, so let's pause real quick. I got a question.
Yeah.
You said he's a northerner soldado, or what did you say
Yeah.
he was?
He's a norteño.
But is he active still?
No.
So that would be, because I remember when I was on B Yard in Salinas Valley when they brought the S&Ys in. They were literally moving us out as they were coming in, and then that lasted for oh so long, and then they shipped them out, made B Yard mainline in Salinas Valley. A Yard stayed like S&Y for like the longest, and I think it still is. Is he on one of them? Is he on that yard?
He's on A Yard.
So to explain to the people, Salinas Valley has 4 yards: A, B, C, D.
Mm-hmm.
AR was was GP up until about 2002. They made it SNY. BR was GP up until 2005, and then they shipped everybody to, because they was opening New Delano, and sent everybody out to there. And then they brought the SNYs in. That lasted for so long, I'll forget. I don't even know the year they shipped the SNYs back out from BR and made it back GP. So the way that prison is even though it's 4 yards, they're still in the same prison. So and that's the 270 side. The 180 side is D yard and C yard. C yard upper and C yard lower. Where this incident have happened was, I believe, C lower or C upper?
C lower because C upper has bulldogs and they're active norteños, but ones that didn't go SNY, but they're not in good standings, I guess you can say, on C upper. So the thing that's interesting, right, is the first incident, right, that happened, as far as where the dude came from death row, the incident happened with the Northerners, blacks, and all that. That actually came. I got that information from B Yard, from people from both sides, and that information was all accurate. The stuff that came from A Yard is a yard that's not associated with none of those yards, so the information wasn't as accurate as it would have been if I would have got it directly from B Yard and C Yard. And I was trying to reach out to those that on B Yard and C Yard, right, that I used to have contact with. I couldn't get no confirmation. It wasn't until later on, until when Homie Hangout told me, and he's pretty good about doing his research. He did a follow-up and he told me ahead of time. I said, okay, I'm gonna pull my video and I'm gonna put a post up. I'm gonna take you at what your word is, what you're saying is true, and I'm just gonna wait till the follow-up comes out tomorrow when we get the PSR.
Yeah.
Which the guy did clear, as you read too, the guy did clarify what actually happened the next day. Okay. You know, but you know, like I told him.
But see, it's on you to really like say, what did you put out there? Look at my followers as people that don't watch your content, because obviously, like, there's a line somewhere in there, whether we or they want to admit it. There's a line somewhere in there. So, what did you put out there, and what is the truth?
I put out there that it was the Southsiders had rushed the blacks, and that there was. I put allegedly. I did put that on the title. Allegedly, four people got stabbed. Right. That wasn't the truth. The truth was that the brothers rushed the Southsiders, and the brothers gave the Southsiders the business. Let's just keep it real. They gave them the business. I've heard that from all different people. They pretty much.
But that's not the whole story you put out. Like, you put out the Southsiders rushed the blacks, and the blacks got the business.
Yeah,
And like they said, some blacks left and stabbed up and critical and all
yep.
that.
That's,
Like you gotta clarify all that too,
no,
so
no,
we
yeah,
know.
that's what I did say. I said allegedly that they left in 4 ambulance. Allegedly, 2 people were critical. Um, that's all about as far as I went. I went that they were the aggressors, that the Southsiders were the aggressors, and the information was all wrong. None of it was accurate. It was all wrong.
So what really happened? If you know what really happened, well, like what really happened?
Now, it depends. It depends. I think the person who got the more accurate story out of it would be the homie Hangout. All I know is the blacks were more the aggressors. One person got shot with I think what is it, the
The
black
new
gun?
rubber, the new rubber
Yeah,
bullets,
and
the
it
projectile
tore his
bullets.
face. It tore his face up, so it looked like he got stabbed. I heard there was no weapons involved. It was all fist. I heard one individual tried to use a cane. That's the individual that got shot. All the stuff that you read, where he claims happened, I don't know if any of that's true yet. It kind of
Yeah.
lines up with everything else. So I'm not going to speak on what my source told me because that's only coming from one individual, and I'm going to learn from what just recently happened and not really
Okay.
repeat. Now, if we
Well,
can confirm,
let me say this. As somebody that's been on more than one riot on them level 4 yards on Salinas Valley, what happens is ain't no secrets. If it's, like I didn't see the white boys pull off a good one where it literally they misdirected us and had everybody administration thinking something else. Really, they was taking off from the Bulldogs. Like I've seen that happen. But for the most part, when it's a situation like they already took off once, and now we're
yeah,
letting him outside, they shut down the yards, all the yards in the prison, and bring all the police to that yard. And there's a yard in between C upper and C lower. And the police line the catwalk. That wall, they line the wall with all they block guns, they bean bag guns, whatever. And now they got a new thing where they got rubber bullets that are they're like rubber something, but they're instead of the mini 14 shooting real bullets, they're shooting that now. And that shit doing damage too, but the fatality rate is lower than what
okay,
it is. So that allegedly they was about to go inside and they had let most of all the buildings inside, and it was the last buildings left. Of course there's not going to be no knives because what they do is they line your ass up, and to get back in the building, not only do you get patted down, but you get wanded too. If it's smoke in the air, you're going to get patted down and wanded. So what's the point of having a knife on you anyway? So most likely you're gonna bury your shit. They're gonna bury their shit because they thinking it's a good chance that the first 2 buildings didn't crack. So the third building, so it's more urgency on getting rid of these weapons that we have on this yard before we go and get patted down. So
I had a
it might
question
have
for
been
you.
it might have been some knives out there, but shit. By the
I
time
had
you
a
get
que-
to that, go ahead.
Do you think that this was a spur of the moment situation, or do you think the brothers were planning it?
Definitely was planned. It didn't
And
even
okay,
need it didn't need a plan. It didn't need a plan. It was something that was supposed to happen. So it don't need a plan. You take off on my folks, and my folks is not in the wrong, then that means that you already know what's coming next. Just like all the administration knew what was coming next. If we going off of simple prison politics, off of what is supposed to happen. He said something, he let them know your folks is disrespecting me. They didn't do nothing. He did it again. He got on his shit. However, he only was gone for 3 months allegedly. He resurfaced on another main line, approached, and if you heard different, let me know. Approached the Southsiders himself with whoever, was like, "This is what happened. Y'all got a problem with it? If so, let me know, and we can do whatever." They said we have
uh,
no issues. We have no issues. Like that was that prison, and they waited, and then that happened. So who's in the wrong and who's in the right?
Oh, I already said who I think's in the wrong. I think the Southsiders are in the wrong. I've said that about day one of this incident. That's my personal
But
opinion.
But at the same time, it's a difference between the Southsiders and the Mexican Mafia. See, they expect us as blacks to know the difference, but we don't care because we doing our own. Like, really,
Yep,
Flaco, do you
agreed.
think that we know as blacks, like the revolutionary blacks or whatever, that's got a lot of time to pay attention to the enemy like that? They might know who MA is and MA not, maybe, but
They
for the
don't know.
most part,
They don't care. That's the truth
they
of
don't
it.
care. They don't.
Exactly. The
You was a
truth.
Mexican. You are a Mexican.
They don't. They're not going to care. That's just how it is. And I've said that since day one. And the fact that them asking them to deal with them afterwards is what I heard. Did you hear that? That they actually asked the brothers to deal with them
After the fact.
after the fact.
That's
I already
double
knew that.
disrespect. That's double
I already,
disrespect.
I already knew it was going to kick off after that. I already knew. You know what I'm saying? But I think the brothers knew too because they were prepared for it.
You talking about
That's why
okay, so when we say the first and second and third, let's clarify what the first riot
there's
was.
there's three incidents. Okay, the first one happened in High Desert, right? But there was also the little melee that happened in the building on B Yard, right? From my understanding, I've heard that's a whole dead issue. I heard. You know what I'm saying? All the tension that was really going on was going on C Yard. The second incident was when they tried to move on the OG, the old timer, right? The guy that stabbed the MA member in High Desert, and I guess I don't know which building happened. I don't know if it happened in C2 and he made it to C4, or I don't know the details of it, but somehow C4 cracked off, and from my understanding, there was 3 Southsiders that got stabbed. That's what I was told. That was the second incident.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
So basically, they wasn't that big like initially thought. They wasn't that big or like that.
No. I mean, any riot where you got multiple people being stabbed is a big scene, but the amount of people, I forgot the PSR. I think it said 38 people were involved. I think, if I'm not mistaken. I actually have I think you read it. The copy of the PSR.
You know what? 38 people is a good one. I ain't gonna lie. That's a riot because there's a difference in prison paperwork, not paperwork meaning like somebody under. No, paperwork meaning how they write you up. There's a difference between a riot and a melee.
Melee's like under 15. Melee's under what? Under 15 usually, right?
I've seen them call 15 a riot. I've seen them do that. I think it really comes down to like if it's personal. Like if it's personal, it might be bloods on bloods. That's 10 bloods on 5 bloods, or 10 bloods and 5 Crips. It might be something like that. That if it's small enough, it could be considered a melee. But when it's 38, that's definitely a riot.
I think that's what the PSR said that I showed you, right? Did it say 38?
I didn't key in on it like that.
Okay, I think it said 38, but it was a little bit more than just the average. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't just a little incident, right? But that one was kind of shocking, man, because it happened out of the blue, and that was 3. So basically, like people have been saying,
really, if you count BR, then you would say that's 4, because there's significance that BR plays into it because of who all was involved. So can you say who all was involved on BR?
On BR, that was a whole. Okay, look, this is what I've been told directly, and I've had both sides confirm this. A dude came from death row, was acting up. I guess he got all on a good one. Ends up taking off on someone's security post. Believe it or not, he took off on the security post of one of the an NF member was in the shower, right?
Yeah.
I guess a blood instantly seen this, right? Seen the black dude and jumped in. From my understanding, this is what I've been told, and I stand behind this. Is probably accurate, right? The blood actually jumped in to help the Northerners on the situation, and I guess other blacks didn't know what was going on. They seen it, and it just Other dudes jumped in. Then a bison jumped in, and a Southsider jumped in. So you had, and then even a white dude jumped in. So you had all different races that got in a little melee. And from my understanding, that afterwards they realized, the calmer heads prevailed and realized it really shouldn't have happened. It was all because of one person's actions, but everybody had to act. It's protocol. You have to act. So it's one of those things to where dead issue. You know what I mean?
So,
but you had everybody involved.
But you see the significance in that. That's
Yeah.
all the races against blacks. Even though it sounds like the black started it, came from Death Row, started it, but he was still faced by 4 different nationalities, 4 different races. That's something that you nor I have ever seen inside.
No.
Right? Have you seen that?
Yeah.
So therefore, that's why BR plays significance into these 3 incidents, because it still leads from high desert to the same prison. And the thing about it is, whenever there were situations in prison, I was in Salinas Valley for 8 years. I don't know if you knew that, but I was there for 8 years. I basically grew up in Salinas Valley. But whenever there's a serious situation, the calmer heads, as you say, meet together and they try to separate fact from fiction and bullshit from bullshit till you get down to who got to get their ass beat. That's how it prevails, and that's how we keep the peace. But
now I heard afterwards that there was a couple. I think they did a couple 3-on-1s because they got to see the video footage of the 115s, and they seen a couple people who didn't engage. Right when it all cracked off, even though it was all over one dude's actions, right? Yeah. But because they didn't engage, I heard that there was a couple 3-on-1s, which was they were moving someone off the yard. But see nowadays, what happens now? If you get caught with a piece, you get put back there on the yard. You don't just stay in the hole no more. It ain't a 15-month shoot term no more. Yeah, man.
I can't even picture that. Wow. You get caught with a knife, they put you back in the cell. Yeah, that's sinking in. I'm just thinking of all the cell searches and all the times.
Think about this. They got left off lockdown less than 2 weeks. Less than 2 weeks.
What's the point of sticking a knife up your butt if you ain't going to the shoot? Exactly.
Take my chances with, you know what I mean?
Yeah. All right, go ahead though.
So look at it from this standpoint too. You know how it was in the 90s and 2000s. Whenever somebody got off, you'd be on lockdown for 6 months, sometimes a year. Right?
Man, that same yard, C upper or C lower, take your pick. We was on lockdown in Salinas Valley for a whole year because of them, and I was on BR. They stabbed a free cook, and they said it was a hit on all freestyle. They locked the whole prison down for a year.
So they got off. They got taken off the lockdown in less than 2 weeks after the last incident. The last incident, 4 people got stabbed.
But you know that's because of the legislation that changed, right? Of new Folsom, where they would say they was locking them down for inhumane amounts of time and shit. So they came with legislation that said they can no longer keep you on lockdown indefinitely. They have a certain amount of time, and they must let you off.
Did you know that they just overturned a lot of that in the Ninth Circuit on Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday?
What?
Yes, yeah. I'm trying to get the details in, but I read a couple articles. And then that originally, I think AB 2320 or whatever, one of those things, right, which was supposed to be you could only be in the hole for the longest time you could be in the hole was for 15 days or 45 days within 6 months, right? Yeah. That was a lot that they were trying to enforce, and that you could no longer be in the hole over a confidential informant. Because back in the days, you had a CI drop a 1030 on you, you could be in the hole for 6 months fighting a case over what that CI said.
And if you got any cooperating things with that CI, with what that CI said, they can hit you with an indeterminate.
Oh yeah, most definitely. So Governor Newsom vetoed that bill though. So pretty much, so now that has to go in front of the legislature it has to go in front of the state senate, and it has to get, I think, 57 votes for it to pass. But the Ninth Circuit overturned a whole other thing with the Ad 6, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do now. So all this stuff that's been occurring lately is playing basically into the system's fucking pocket. This is what they want. They want these laws to pass or to get denied. You know what I'm saying?
What about the juvenile offender law? Are they trying to overturn that too?
No, not that I know of on that.
Okay.
Not that I know of on that.
All right, so let's get back to it, man. Obviously, like, if we were both in prison, we would definitely be on different sides of the track, as they say, right?
Maybe. It's different from prison to prison. It's different from prison to prison. You know what I mean? I have a hard time. Look, I've been places in the 90s, man. Like, you know, I've been in a shoe pod where I was the only North Daniel there, and there was other brothers there, and the brothers had my, you know, supported me. They were my, like, communicated all day, information and all that, man. So I've been places where I don't forget those that were there to assist me. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard when I see. I like the part of coexisting with your own kind. I think that's a great thing. Yeah. Just like I'm pretty sure it's good for the brothers to coexist with Crips, Bloods, and all that. I'm all supportive of that too. But it's also cool for the Northerners and Southerners to be on respectful terms. Now, I don't stand for the oppression tactics, though, that are usually being used by some MMA members. I don't stand for that. I don't support that. I never will. Because that's something I used to stand against. You know, like the dictating and the telling people, well, you have to do this, yet look at what he did. So who's going to hold him accountable?
Okay, so okay. Where does the Flowers play in this? Because you got to remember, I was there in the 90s too, and all I knew was North Daniels, and these was our folks. So, and then on one day I looked up on the yard, and all the North Daniels, they just seemed to be fighting each other, and it didn't make any sense to me at all. And this is around 99, 2000. So obviously, you probably know what happened then. From my understanding, that was the beginning of the New Flowers.
The New Flowers were there on that yard at that time, and there was things aren't like how they are now. Now there's not a lot of New Flowers left. There's two different splits of the New Flowers now. You have some that are on the S and Y side, right, which is sensitive knee yards, and you have those that are still trying to push on the main line that they won't go S and Y, which are the ones that are on C upper right now. Believe it or not, they're still there. Yeah, they don't have no part of any of this. None of it.
Understanding. So this is my understanding, right? This goes back to what you said earlier. Like, I find it hard to generate any type of hate whatsoever toward a Northerner, especially if he's a Northerner that I was cool with on the streets, and now we in the pen, and I'm supposed to like be against you. And I think that the Northerners felt that from the Sacramento area and the Bay Area, and I think that's why they dropout number was so great, because they grew up like us. Am I wrong? Correct me.
I think, okay, look, a lot of changes happened in the late 90s within the North Daniel movement, right?
Right.
Different type of structures came. You know, there used to be something called the NR that was there before 97, which was a Nuestra Raza, which was structure, right?
Right.
Now, before Northerners, okay, back when you first started doing time, you had those that were when you were on the yard, you had those that were doing the politics. They'd be in the corners, holding the juntas. Now, that's the kind of shit I was involved in. Then you had the regular Northerners just did their program. When played handball, did their job and whatnot. The policies were not as enforced strictly as they were. Things changed around that time. Now, everybody was expected to do certain things, as opposed to before, you only did those things when you went to the hole. It's like when you went to the hole, you know, back in the 90s, even as a brother, you fall and file. You know what I'm saying? You respect the machine, you respect all that, right? Yeah. But what you did on the main line would be something totally different. Now, the rules that were being applied on all Northerners were changed, and they were put those expectations. So out of nowhere, if you remember the 90s, there used to be a bunch of OGs with big old bro shots and stuff like that, all on the yards, right? Yeah. Now they're telling these guys that have been doing time for 20, 30 years, you have to do this, you have to do that. And so everybody's taking it back. Now, that same type of approach, and this is what I feel too, where the Northerners went wrong with the relationships with the blacks, right? This is my personal feeling. They started to try to enforce their policies and procedures on the blacks.
Wait. Hey, this is an epic moment, so we can't really skip over
Okay, go.
because
Okay, okay.
we talking about how the Northerners fell out with each other, right? That's one point. And then there was a time in between there from like 2000 to 2005 where the Northerners were kind of in limbo, but the understanding with blacks was still there. And so, what
Yeah.
was going on in that time?
Okay, when I first hit the system, right, and I was going to the 6 yard San Quentin on the hole, right, as a young kid, we were told we were okay to have the blacks post up when we used to shower, mocking all that, right? When we used to
Yeah,
march, this is the whole, we used to march side by side and then
yeah.
run. It had to be one black, one brown, right next to each other. You know what I'm saying? That's how we used to promote the unity. Now things just slowly just started to change because, like I said, a lot of I think the caliber of individuals that came to the system sometimes could change things. But I think what happened is you had certain people trying to enforce their their ways upon people. You know what I mean? Complaining, and you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's like as long as the people are not an obstacle to one security, it'd be like who cares? You can't dictate what
Yeah.
another group does. You can't put your beliefs or your policies or your procedures on a whole nother group. That's
So
their
this
choice,
was.
their decision.
So are you
Huh?
saying from 2000 to 2005 that was a period of Norteños warring against each other?
No, at that time there was it was hard to get everybody in line in communication because leadership had just got hit with the Operation Black Widow. So a lot of
Yeah.
things were going on politically that was above everybody's pay grade, and the contacts with the lines were kind of hard at that time. And so it
Yeah.
was a lot of work putting out procedures for everybody to be on the same page. So you at that time, what they used to do was they would take and CDCR has a lot to do with this. They would take certain young Northerners and send them to a prison where the yard was all bad, right? The Northerners on the yard were all bad. There was no SMYs yet.
Yeah.
Like they send you to Jamestown, they send you to San Luis Obispo, they send you to all these places, and you're young, you don't know any better. They go out there and they program,
Yeah.
you know. So it was hard to clean up fucking house basically back then.
I was in Vacaville, right? And I mean, I ain't gonna say comrades, but my closest folks was a northerner, but he was a dropout northerner and named Capone from he's Capone from Mission, but he was also Uso too. So shout out to the Foy Monos. But that was my guy. And I didn't understand when somebody would come to Vacaville, he'd be like, "Man, that dude is active. He's playing." And I'm thinking that if they're active, they're just gonna get off and leave. But nah, they'll come in and play cool. They for like a day or two, go to
Pick a
chow
target.
and pick a target to take off. You see, you already know.
Yep. That's
So,
exactly.
but still, that was still northerner on northerner. So now we didn't cover 2000, 2005. Now 2005, the end of 2005, I'm in Solano, and the riot with the soccer ball, I mean with the soccer game in Solano, that shit had happened, and it already was blowing my mind. Like, wow, we're into it with the Northerners. I can't believe this. 2 weeks later, the Southsiders take off on the blacks. They stab a shot caller, pincushion him, and he dies. But they take off on him, and then they take off on the blacks in front of the canteen, and then it turned out bad for him. But it happened like that, and then so now we're into it with the North and the South on the same yard in Solano. This is Solano. Back then, it would have been called B yard. Now it's like the 2 yard. But we're into it with the North and the South, and come to find out, they was helping each other, like they was giving each other knives and stuff. And this is facts. It ain't even fit facts. So the thing is, that's when I this, and you can correct me if you, because I know you got a little status, but the word was a kite came from the shoe that said blacks are no longer to be treated as allies. They are now to be treated as hostiles, and that was the end of us having a quote unquote alliance or understanding. Is correct me if I'm wrong.
See, when I was running prison. I was running DVI around maybe a year later. We had a respectful rapport. Well, I had some issues with the BGF shot caller at that time, but who good dude. But a lot of people bumped heads with this particular individual, right? Which was Sekou, right? Shorty from
I
Oakland.
know I know Sekou.
Okay, so yeah, Sekou, but he was good. You guys were programming still in the yard, so were the Crips and Bloods and all that, right? But there was no orders at all about that. You know what I mean? What I was told, right, was it depended. We were using the word alliances instead of the word ally because it would be pick and choose if they were worthy. Because not every group wanted to rock with the Northerners. It's like when I was in Solano on the yard I was on, the Sac Bloods were cool with us. The Kumi Cats were
What
cool.
year? What
I
year?
think it was 97, 98.
Okay.
Okay, and then the LA Crip car. I was cool with all those cars. The Kumis, the Sac Bloods were deep on the yard, and then the LA Crip car. Because I remember the LA Crip car had their table by the track. The Kumi Cats had their by Building 5, and then the Bloods were right close by there. So it all depended on where you were at. See, I was down in the hole in San Luis Obispo with like, there was what,
You got
3 or 4
you got
Damas
you got
with me.
you gotta say what prison that is. What's the name of that prison?
CMC East. I was in the hole.
CMC.
I was in the hole there for
Okay.
about 10 months, and I was there with Keeley from Inglewood and Johnny Benson, JB, old school Jama cat that I've done time with in San Quentin as well. And like we were all there rocking still solid, bro. And even as far back before I left, some places shit had happened, but a lot of times it was over. You already know there'd be like the issue that happened in San Quentin. You heard about that, right? About the dead on the
Which
streets and
which one?
the North and Blacks, the Kumis.
In the kitchen?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I heard about it.
yeah, yeah. So those type incidents like that started to happen where before that never would have happened. You know what I'm saying? People would
You
have
know
went to their
what's
shot callers and dealt with it, and they would have found a way to kind of diffuse the issues. But what I noticed is more people wanted to jump over issues. You get what I'm saying?
yeah.
As opposed to before, they would be it would be easy to kind of direct them.
Can you tell me this? Why was it that Sacramento and the Bay Area had the highest dropout rate?
Sacramento, huh?
Sacramento, and the reason, my suspicion is this, because they grew up how they grew up, and they grew up like side by side with blacks, and then they got to come up and they got to funk against us, because from what I seen, the structured Northerners was all in Central California, the ones that seem to be
Well,
some
SAC
type of
politics
funk.
are interesting, bro. The SAC game politics are fucking interesting, bro. I'm gonna say that. It's they're like I kind of think I'm kind of intrigued by it. I don't know enough to speak on it, but it's like you could be from like say the Oak Park area, be a Norteño, and you could also be from a hood. You're still both sides are still rocking out Oak Park. They're still rocking together out there. You get what I'm saying? It's not it's a little bit different. Like it's like you grow up in a certain neighborhood, you're gonna have both sets in that neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Could be a blood
Yeah.
or Daniel living in the same area, but you're walking together out to the streets. You're going to parties. You're doing business together. So it's kind of hard for you to go into prison, and now you got to have fun with these people because of some political issue. You
Yeah,
know?
I remember, like back in the days, there's a hood called Frank Lone in Sac, and a hood called Gardones, and they used to really be at it with each other. But the interesting thing is the Gardones used to be having blue rags, and somebody, I don't know how long it lasted, but the Gardones do claim. I mean, they be with they're side by side with 29th Street. So it made sense for them to have blue rags. But when they big
Yeah.
homies came from YA and shit like that, like man, we North Daniels. Why the hell do we got blue rags? Like that's out, and they stopped that.
Yeah. Never. I think a lot. I think part of what you said is I think there's maybe a little bit part truth to what you're saying on that.
Yeah.
Not complete. You know what I mean? But I think the rule structure change though had a lot to do with it too, though, man. The same reason why I think blacks and Northerners started to have a little bit more issues. Now, don't get me wrong, there were still good relationships in a lot of places at that time. You know what I mean? But I think a lot of it had to do with expectations. If you put your expectations, you're North Daniel, and you're politicking, You can't force another group to program up to the same level as you want them to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You can't.
Hey,
You know?
so not to cut you off, but we kind of need to go back to that 2005,
Okay.
like all of a sudden blacks not being allies or having an alliance, as you said. What happened in that time to break that alliance down?
You know what? A lot of it I don't know. I can't completely say, but I can take a little bit of a guess. I just think that there just started to be, different relationships. Like there was a couple riots, melees that were happening in holes. People were like feeling a certain way about some issues that happened, like in Susanville. There was a melee that happened between the Crips and the Northerners there in the hole because they felt the Crips were disrespecting the machine over there. Then you started hearing different reports. This happened over here at this institute, and it's all hearsay information. You know what I'm saying? You don't know if it's all going to add up because you're only hearing one side of it as a Northerner. You're not hearing what the blacks have to say about it. So it's kind of hard to sit there. But of course, you're going to back up your own people when you hear it. So that's the way people are going to rock.
So you think that led up to the breakdown, or that was just part of it? Because the word is it came from the chute, it came from up top, and it trickled down to the active lines. Like this is the word. We're not messing with blacks no more like that.
At that time, the only kite that I seen that came out around that time was a kite. You know what? There was something that mentioned that. I know what you're talking about, and that was in the same kite when it was talking about how the Mexican Mafia and AB were having issues in death row at the time. It was pretty much presented that each black group would be taken, depending upon who that individual was on the yard, what the relationship was going to be. It's almost like you had to see if they were worthy or not, or they were hostile, basically, like you said. So it wasn't no direct order. It wasn't no direct order just to fucking approach every black group as an enemy. No, it was like see what they're about when they get there, see if they're worthy, see if they're willing to work. Like I said, the blacks have their own politics that not everybody always understands. There's a lot of different black groups in a prison, so you can't judge the whole overall population of blacks just based upon what the Crips over here are doing, or what the Bloods are doing, or what the Kumi are doing, because that's their own individual program. It's not a reflection of every black.
But you see what I was saying earlier, like how we don't know the difference between a Mexican Mafia and an MA. Excuse me, Mexican Mafia and a Southsider. We don't know the difference, and I'm kind of now seeing that they don't really know the difference between us unless we're separated on the yard like we normally do, like we have our spots. I think that's the only way that the Southsider would know the difference between us.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna tell you a story, right? This happened in 2004, okay, and this has to do with the blacks. The previous year, the ones that were PCs in the first tier in San Quentin, right, made a fake kite and said that the Northerners were going to move on the blacks, right?
Wait. Wasn't they putting gang members on that tier too?
No. At the time they had all first tier.
Because there was a time when San Quentin was man, they was doing gang members wrong. So let's not overlook that. Like gang members was coming from Sacramento. They was getting treated somewhat. It was 50-50, but gang members was coming from LA, and people from the Bay Area was literally like making them like, shit, we don't do that gang shit here.
So let me get to the story though. So they wrote a kite and they gave it to the canine, and it said that all Northerners were going to move on the blacks. Now there was no truth to it, right? So they gave that to the administration, right? And they took the blacks off the 6 yard. The 6 yard had been the BGF Northern Structure NF yard for years, and associates. It'd been for years. It'd been black and brown. They took them off the yard, right, and gave them their own yard, right? The blacks.
Is this before levels?
This is before 2005.
So
this is 2003.
San Quentin, is this before San Quentin was a level 2?
This is in the hole. Yeah, this is around the time.
The hole is different. My bad. Excuse me.
So they used to do that too. They used to trip off you if you were gangbanging in San Quentin back then. The brothers did. So about 6 months later, a year later, they had to make a new death row yard. So they had to bring the blacks, merge us with the blacks again, right? So we were okay with it, right? At the time, I was holding the ranking position at the facility. So pretty much when I hit the yard, I was pretty much the authority on that yard. So we were communicating with the Kumis at first in the building because there was no BGF in the building. And
Right.
the first tier, which was the PCs, tried to ride a kite talking about that we were going to move on them when they were going to the yard. And I remember the cat that shot it to us was some cat named Nakam from he was a Kumi. Shoots the kite, right? And so we get at him and say, nah, this isn't going to happen. Now no Kumis came to the yard when they merged us, but BGF came to the yard. And when BGF came to the yard, I went and greeted the dude that was knockout from Oakland. And so I knew all those cats. I'd done hella time with them. So I remember they told us straight up at the time that they were not going to let no Kumi hit the yard. And so this was the first for me. I don't know. The blacks have their own politics going on sometimes. There's conflicts that we aren't even aware of that are going on.
This had to have been about 99, 2000, 2001.
When
this happened?
2004.
Because they only went to war for so long. Because at one point it was like when I hit the yard, it was B yard, like it was hella BGFs, and the Kumis was short. And then all of a sudden it went like this. Same thing with the Northerners and the Bulldogs. The scale tipped. So with the BGF and the Kumi, at one point when I first hit in the 90s, it was majority BGF. And then all of a sudden something happened and it was majority Kumi, no matter where you went. Hey, shout out. Hold on, man. Somebody just dropped me a super chat. Hold on. Bam. Right there. 1967 kid, man. Good looking out on that super chat. You just trying to drop some real shit and separate fact from fiction on here, man. So I appreciate that. Not Larry, 1967 kid.
See, that's what people don't realize. Like you said, just like how not all brothers are aware of how the politics work with all these groups. Not all the Northerners know that there's so many different black groups as well that politic different. You can't put your expectations for them to take care of something that you feel needs to be taken care of. Then there was a thing that started coming out. I know you remember this, where you had people that just ran civilian.
Well, you said people. Are you talking about black civilians, Mexican civilians? What do you mean?
Black civilians.
Yeah. Hell yeah. You're gonna always have black civilians because not everybody was a gang member. Some people was athletes. Some people was squares that made a decision. But the funny phenomenon about civilians is that they always find a clan. Now, this clan might not be subject to the politics that gang clans is going to be subjected to, but they're going to, every time you see them, you're going to see them together, and they're going to be on the yard playing Dungeons and Dragons or whatever they do. They're going to find some square shit to do, but they're civilians. Or they might be the type of person that come in and hide under religion too, because you got them type of civilians too.
You had a lot of dudes that were doing that back in the days, picking up the Bible thumpers when they hit prison. I remember that too.
One thing I'm gonna say about Hispanics though is you gotta be a tough one to be able to come and be a clear-cut Hispanic and go to the church house, because Southsiders ain't playing that shit.
Mm-hmm. Nope.
So
it's been a big change. Like I said, when I hear all this stuff going on now, it shocks me, man. And it's like I'm just surprised by a lot of it.
Yeah. All right. So here go my other question, man. What effects do you believe that social media plays in prison politics? Is there effects at all, if any? Or are people inside paying attention?
I think that they pay attention, but I don't think the effects are as much in prison as people would like to believe. If anybody's just gonna hear a bunch of guys have their opinions on something and go off that, now they live in their own separate world, I believe. You know how it is. It's a little bit different now that they have access to social media, but I don't think social media is going to affect the prisons one way or another. Me personally, you're not going to take action.
So you don't think that there's no such thing as a pressure case, or knowing that the world is paying attention to y'all yard in particular, that you don't think that adds any type of pressure to any situation?
Yeah, and I mean, they're not. Nobody's going to admit that, right? They're going to act like it doesn't. But yeah, probably a little bit. I would believe it does. You know.
Because I know this. I know, and this is the social media era. I know if I'm on a yard, and I know that what happened, it went viral, and everybody's talking about it. That when we come off a lockdown, if I don't take flight, or if the homies or all of us don't take flight, we're gonna be looking some kind of way. So that I say that there might have been peace somewhere in there, but it all of a sudden became not an option because social media got the spotlight pointed directly on this yard, and now that's added pressure.
I think right now, to be honest with you, whether it was on social media or not, I think that there is a lot of pressure regardless right now. You know, and without trying to stir the pot, it's kind of hard not to if I was to really put my opinion on what's going on recently. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
If I was to give an honest fucking evaluation of it, it's this whole thing that's going on is not going to end anytime soon. Let's just be real about it. You know what I mean? Um, but it's hard. It's hard not to speak like that because you don't want to sit there and advocate like you're promoting fucking issues to happen on the yard. You know what I mean? Uh,
that
we've both been in
yeah,
places like prison.
but
You were
here's
locked down for a while. I was locked down for a while.
here's the thing,
Yeah,
man.
go ahead.
I did 20 years, so I kind of look at it different because I'm not supposed to allegedly feel as passionate as I do about prison politics, but yet this is where I grew up. I didn't have my 20s out here on the streets. I didn't have my good teen years on the streets. I spent my good teen years all in Salinas Valley, politicking, fighting, putting it on the line, catching attempted murders, being in multiple riots in this prison. So anything that goes on there,
Hmm.
man, I feel it. I can't help that. That's like forgetting the college that you went to school, forgetting your school, your high school, your college alma mater, whatever the hell that shit is called. You ain't never gonna forget that because that was a big part of your
Well,
life.
that's why I feel. That's why you know, like I said, I'm cool about the roster being able to coexist, right? But there's a reason. That's why. But hold on, there's a reason why I don't want them to get involved in this recent issue because I don't. Like I said, the brothers ain't wrong in it. They're not. So how could I ever support an act that I know is wrong? That I know there's still a lot of homeboys I know for the years they got a lot of love. They're still doing time. I don't want them to get put in a position to where they have to go into a war. We're not saying that they're in the war yet. We're not even saying that. But if they were to involve themselves in over the reasons why,
So do
it's
the
not a
people?
good look, man.
So do the people? I mean, the Northerners that hold on to the old tradition that will not rock side by side with a Southerner, do they become S and Y by default because of their holding true to their values?
That's a good question, man. That is a good question. That's something that we're gonna find out now. It depends. Like I said, our, whatever happens on the incident that's happened in Salinas Valley, the Northerners have not involved themselves yet, right? Right now, it's going to be crucial where the politics go forward if they involve themselves on that issue or not. Because, like I said, if it was a just reason, right, I would be all
Yeah.
for it. I would be all supportive of it, even if it was against the blacks. I'd be like, okay, you know what, go for it. On this incident, what it's about, I can't support it. Even though I know I have no horse in this race, right? It doesn't mean I don't have a past relationship with people that I know that are on these yards that I got love for. You know what I mean? And
So so
for what this incident happened over, right?
yeah.
You know what I mean? It would be fucking. It would be stupid to involve themselves because it gets everything that, as a North Daniel that we used to represent.
So give me okay. We two men and we talking. And if something happened that was just, you would say all for it. And I'm pretty sure, like if it was a black situation, I'd probably say the same. But
Yeah,
would you feel some kind of conviction still, like the old school, even like back in the days when blacks got into it with Northerners? I'd be like, damn, that's like getting into it with your partners. But and when we did, we got into it multiple rides with the Northerners, and every time we had to be reminded that just because we black and they Mexican, they grew up just like us, so they just as gangster as us too. So we was reminded that often, not everybody, but a lot of homies that ended up with little poke holes in their body have to be reminded that the Northerners was just like us growing up.
Yeah, see, I was fortunate that I never had been in any place where we except for the county jail. In the county jail, we used to all fight everybody all the time. That's a little different, right? I got to
Yeah,
fight for everybody.
Sac
You know what I mean?
County too.
And it was all love once you got to prison. You know what I mean? But you know,
Yeah.
you could. I was fighting other Norteños when I was in the county jail back then. Sometimes, bro, blacks, everything. But I never
We
had any
looked at
experience.
we looked at it like shit. Y'all as Northerners got your own shit to be, your own enemies to be worrying about. Like shit, y'all ain't worrying about us. We y'all on y'all's and we all know what we own. And it all
So
and it was like that.
I seen one time in the county jail. I was on a higher level, right? I was a youngster, and something happened between a homie and a black, right? And then the two OGs made them two do a DP right in front of each other the whole fucking time. You had one black and one Northern have to do a DP together. And I forgot what it was over, man. That's just how it used to be. There used to be relationships like that, you
On the
know.
county jail. Well, you know what?
Seneca,
You know what? And it's real shit.
Seneca County.
My uncle, I'm not gonna say his name, but my uncle is a black Northerner, and he's about 62 now.
From Sac or
Picture
no?
that, sack.
I had a roommate. He was probably about 60 back then too. He was a black Northerner from Stockton.
Yeah, they exist.
They
They
existed, I
exist.
guess. And his you know, he was
Yeah,
older. He
man.
was BLS.
Hey, so in closing, man, is there anything else you really want to touch on? Because I remember you wanted to, you wanted to get together and talk about some things,
Nah,
especially back after that video when I responded to your video. But
I,
excuse me, your video.
no, it's like this, man. I don't forget where I come from, man, and I don't forget the relationships I've had. I've been, like I said, man, I've been around a lot of cats who have helped pave the way. They even gave me a Swahili name one time. They used to call me Enama. You know what I'm saying? They used to teach me Swahili. I used to be able to speak a lot of Swahili, so I don't forget a lot of the good brothers that I met throughout the years,
Oh,
right?
you one of the reasons why we stopped speaking Swahili. Yeah. We used to learn Swahili when we went to the hole, but then administration was like, if we catch you with Swahili words, we're gonna give you an indeterminate shoot. And then in the blacks, in the hole, it was mandatory learning Swahili, but then we had the white boys, the skinheads and shit, they speaking Swahili too. Then
Sure
we
wasn't
try to
me.
switch to Key Swahili. They learned that. We switched to Bantu. They learned that. So it was like, fuck it. What else we gonna learn? But it was mandatory, and we used to
We spoke
speak
out.
Swahili to the Northerners in that set.
Yep. Maybe Flaco, way. Kabar Yako and do all that. I used to speak it all the time. Give me some kahawa. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Oh
So I had
yes,
a lot of. Give me some mochi. I need some mochi.
Moshi, some smoke. Yeah, man.
so,
And that shit,
so,
Swahili. I'm
so,
telling you, it's nice to know Swahili in prison. But then when I came home and I caught myself trying to speak Swahili to some like Nigerians or something, they was like, "What? I don't have no idea what you are saying." I said, "Habari Gani." It was like, "Habari what?"
It's cracking. Yeah, man. Like I said, though, man, I've had a lot of good relationships, and I don't want people to think because I have an opinion when I hear something that, or if I was misinformed. I'm not gonna ever. I'm gonna make sure. I'm not gonna say ever because it happens, right? But that whole situation, man, was I need to take a step back. How the misinformation could look and how people could take it personal because this is what I really thought happened when I reported it, man. And be a little more patient, man. But I don't forget where I come from. You know what I'm saying?
I said it, man. Players fuck up.
Yeah.
And the thing is what you do after that. And your first move was, oh shit, this shit wrong as fuck. Let me take this shit off. And you did that quick. That's if you had to weigh what's the right thing to do, you didn't take no time to figure that out. You already knew.
No,
Bam,
no,
video.
man, it was getting hella views. You know what I'm saying? So it was not like I was trying to milk it. I took it down right away. You know,
I
you know what I'm
honestly
saying?
believe, and this is my personal opinion. I think I caught the time frame to say something about it, but anything after me was like reaching. Anything after me was reaching, and that's just all I'm gonna say about that.
Yeah, you know. But I appreciate you letting me on here just to talk a little bit about our past, how things have been, man. Like I said, man, this is Black August, brother. You know what I'm saying? I
Oh
used to, I used to,
yeah, man.
I used to celebrate this. We used to fast. We used to have tournaments. We used to do all that stuff, man. Out of
Can you
respect.
picture? Can you picture that though now? Like we used to play softball games against the Northerners during Black August. Like Northerners and white boys is the only races that we could play against, or whatever you want to call it, that we could play against in softball. Blacks can't play softball against Southsiders. It just don't go down like that because all it takes is one collision and it's a whole full skill rider with bats. So that don't happen. With Northerners, we did everything together. Like a Northerner could eat after a black. A Northern
Yeah.
could eat after a black. A Southsider get probably stabbed for doing that shit. We was that
Oh yeah.
close. Like we shared the same water fountains, same showers, all the shit. But the thing is, we had skirmishes, but the respect was still, it was always there. Like shit, we still us against them. That's what changed now. It's not us against them. It's us blacks against them. That's what changed, and that was really what was accomplished by me and your coexisting and bringing this message. That's really what was attained because it's people like you that haven't been in prison in hella long, me that hasn't been in prison in hella long, that haven't got the memo. And we still
I'm
on here making prison. We still on here making prison content and shit.
I got one
So
thing to say though, right? And this is something you maybe not up to par on. For the last for a minute, right? There's been a conflict between the old leadership that is now in the feds and the state
right,
leadership that is now enforcing these policies. The old leadership in the feds, this shit would never have happened. Straight up, they're against all this stuff that's been going on. So that's one of the biggest changes too, and that's off that indictment in 2001, the Operation Black Widow. All those dudes that were leadership back then, all ended up in the feds and a whole new leadership. And there's been conflict over how the state has dealt with things, especially the end all hostilities. The feds didn't really, the feds didn't want that. They didn't agree with
hey,
it.
I remember. Hey, man, look, us as people that's been in this prison genre for a very long time, we we might not catch every video of each other's, but if it's doing enough numbers, it's gonna come across the feed. So I remember when the feds came down. I remember the convicts' perspective and y'all table and all that. I pulled up on y'all a couple of times, and I remember I seen it, and it's crazy because I look at dynasties in the past, like the Roman dynasty, the Greek dynasty, like they all built up and they was reigning supreme for hella long. And then all of a sudden, some type of treason happened inside, catch a cancer, they fold and implode on each other, and then a new kingdom is born. I see this shit happen time and time again on YouTube. It's crazy, ain't it?
It's crazy, man. No, but we all bounce back though. You know what I mean?
You can't lose your fight, man.
Never. Can't
YouTube,
stop
YouTube
pushing.
was YouTube will sit on you and make it hard for you. And I was one of the ones YouTube made me fight just to like make content like this because once they demonetized me, I was half-assed with it all.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't putting my effort forward. But then once I got monetized again, it's like shit. Let's step on this motherfucking gas and let's get on some relevant content that's gonna enlighten and open people's eyes, and that's gonna break down barriers so that other people can see past that brick wall. That's what I've been on right now. So you coming on, man, I appreciate you coming on, Flaco. We should have been done this shit.
Yeah,
But
a long time ago.
old ways of thinking and shit, you know, that shit sometimes is put there to try to slow you down. And then slow you down because you got to fight your way through the mind frames. But yet, if you stand on your own too and your own beliefs, none of that shit matters.
Definitely.
None of that shit matters. So you got anything you want to say to the Dirty
Yeah.
Nation?
Anybody that tuned in from Convict's perspective, tap into Dirty Weather's channel, man. Subscribe. Hopefully, you get some subscribers off my channel. Maybe I can get a few from yours, man. You know,
Straight up.
I'm an open platform. I'm an open platform too, where I'm open for mostly anybody to come on my channel as well that wants to come on that has a statement to make. Or anybody, man, that's interested, just tap in with me, man. I'm gonna give anybody a platform to speak their mind and say what they want to say. You know, that's one thing I try to do is I don't discriminate there. You know, as long as
Yeah.
people come on respectfully, hey, voice opinion. If they want to criticize something I say, then I'm open to criticism because maybe I can learn from it.
Straight up, man. I appreciate you coming on, man. You welcome to the platform anytime, and man, keep doing what you're doing, man. And I noticed your work engine. You've been pumping out 3, 4, 5 videos a day. Shit, that's what it's about, man. Run that shit up.
But most definitely. Took the day off today. All right, brother.
That's right. All right, man. All right, man. Anybody that tapped in, they caught a good show. And that's what's up, man. I appreciate y'all, man. Always. Dirty Weather 916. Hit that likes and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Dirty Weather. Come.